Hey, it's Miss Hicks here. You're going to go on a little adventure with me today. We read about the Wright brothers this week in social studies. You had their biography and you've been answering questions all week. I actually got to go to the museum and the memorial and the monument of where the Wright brothers' first flights took place. Do any of you remember that location? Let's go check it out. Here it is, Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. That is located on the barrier islands to North Carolina, and they're called the Outer Banks. On the left is me by the monument, or in front of it. It's on a really high hill, and I will show you that in just a minute. On the right is a reproduction of the toy that was mentioned in the biography you read this week. If you see it, you can see how it spins and the rubber band on it and the little wings. They call it the bat. I do believe it was called something else in your biography. Now we're inside the actual museum. This museum is part of our United States National Park system. So it was really cool, and they really take care of it and take pride in those first flights being taken in Kitty Hawk. So on the left is Kaylin and Maddie, my girls, and they are standing next to life-size cutouts of Wilbur and Orville Wright. In the middle is a small replica of the plane that was used to take those flights. But on the right, in the top corner, is actually a life-size replica or a full-scale replica of what size that plane was that they used there in Kitty Hawk to fly for the first time. And there we are on the standing in front of the replica that was outside the monument. That is to full scale of the size of the plane that they flew that day. So if you look to the right, above Kaylin's head, there is a man in there. It's just a statue of one of the Wright brothers. So that just gives you an idea of how much plane there was compared to the size of him laying down and steering it as he was taking that flight. On the left was from 1909, and this is Wilbur, and he is circling the Statue of Liberty in his plane. What I thought was funny and why I took this picture when we were at the museum was because he strapped a canoe to the bottom of the plane in case his engine failed or he crashed. He was hoping that would keep him afloat in the ocean. I'm not sure whether or not he crashed or not. I don't remember reading that. So now we're at the monument that's outside of the museum. On the far right shows the whole thing up on the hill. We hiked up there. It's actually a little further than it looks. It was pretty tall. And in the middle, you can see that. The girls are standing on the edge of it at the top of the monument, and you can see the Atlantic Ocean in the background. Really beautiful. And on the left is just a closer picture of the actual monument. So after we finished our trip to Kitty Hawk and the Flight Museum and the monument, we decided to take our own turn flying on these big dunes. Do you see now why in the biography it said the ground was soft there? Those are huge sand dunes, the largest ones on this on the east side of the United States, and they're built from the winds and coming off of the ocean. They were just really beautiful, but we walked a long way to get to the top. If you look at that arrow, it points back down to the base camp, like the beginning of the park, and you hike through that thick sand, which is really difficult to do because your feet sink. On the right is how they check your harness to make sure you're strapped in safely before you're connected to the glider. You lean forward and you depend on that guy to hang on to you to make sure that your harness is fitted correctly. There goes one of the girls down the dune. They're not licensed to hang glide by themselves yet, so they were tethered. This day was super windy, so they weren't able to go as high in the air as they could have. They had to hold them closer because if not, they could have lost control of their glider. And on the right is just a picture of us going up. And at the very top, you can see two gliders. Those actually stay up there for us to use as shade because it's so hot up there and you get sunburned very easily in that white sand. The last thing I want to leave you with is a quote that was posted at the museum by Wilbur in 1902. If you are looking for perfect safety, you will do well to sit on a fence and watch the birds. But if you wish to learn, you must mount a machine and become acquainted with its tricks.